Austrian computer science professor Alois Ferscha describes his work with the Spectacles project as both his greatest success and greatest failure. The project was a collaborative effort between Ferscha's team at Johannes Kepler University in Upper Austria and the Austrian eyewear manufacturer Silhouette, resulting in the creation of a pair of cutting-edge data glasses back in 2004. As Google Glass, this very technology became a world sensation without Professor Ferscha's involvement. Contrary to popular belief, Europe still does produce significant technological innovation. However, European researchers often fail to claim the rights to their discoveries in a timely manner, allowing others to capitalize on their achievements for free, as was the case with Google Glass. Very welcome to Code Red, Technology, Madness, and the Future of Humanity, the monthly podcast for people who are pissed off about technology going rogue, want to do something about it, and wish to use technology in a positive way to create a better future for humanity. My name is Ursula Esin. I'm the founder and CEO of Red Swan Vienna, and I'm co-hosting this podcast with Silicon Valley-based tech luminary, futurist, innovator, inventor, writer, and experienced product manager with Ideate and Execute, Chris Kalabukis. Chris is named inventor on 323 patents and cited on even more, 1,691 patents in the internet, social networking, and fintech space. A serial entrepreneur, he has helmed several startups from inception to launch. He has authored several books on innovation and the future and publishes blogs and podcasts at thinkfuture.com. His latest innovation is also really great. I use it daily, Chris, really.
Thank you.
It's called, I really do. It's called aidaily.us, a platform which helps you to navigate through the fast-paced AI jungle with a well-curated daily blast of AI news. Check it out, aidaily.us. It's free of charge. So very welcome, Chris. It's such a delight to have you on this show.
Oh, thank you so much. It's great coming on here, and it's great seeing you again. Great meeting you again, because this is how we meet each other, over Zoom.
Correct. We had already some technical problems today, but we overcame the obstacles as great inventors do. So, Chris, I really couldn't think of anyone better to talk about our topic today than you. Not only do you hold so many patents, 1,600 something, I also read that during your work at Yahoo, you patented something similar to Google Glass yourself. So can you first tell us about this story? What was the journey? What was your role in it? And what happened to the invention?
Sure, absolutely. So back in 2005, I spent about 5 years at Yahoo running their innovation program. And one of the things that we were getting in the innovation program was that it was really incremental innovation. It wasn't anything sort of really disruptive, really new, really out of the box. So I thought, we've got to do something about coming up with something that's much more interesting, much more disruptive. So at the time, we were celebrating our 10th anniversary, and everybody was looking back over the last 10 years and how Yahoo started with sort of Jerry and David sort of sleeping under cubes in their in their offices in Mountain View. And at the very last,
did you do that too?
Oh no, I didn't sleep under the cube, but I did see the cube that they were sleeping under. So at the very last, they put out this really nice book of pictures of stuff that they've done and pictures of the cube and stuff like that. And then the very last page, they had a blank page which says, where will we be in 10 years? And I thought, wow, that's a really interesting concept. So I actually lifted that concept and I said, you know what? Instead of thinking about innovations of today, let's think about innovations of 10 years from now. So I created a program that we call the Yahoo Futurist Program. So the idea was you can create innovations, but they have to be in 10 years. So what are we going to do? And this was in 2007. In 2007, I said, imagine what the world of 2017 is going to be like. And we had a contest. We said, so for these 30 days, we want you to come up with what you imagine. So imagine the world 10 years out, and we created news from the future. We did all sorts of cool stuff to try and get people to envision what 10 years from 2007 would be like. And we got some amazing responses. And there was a team that was made up of graphic designers and engineers and a few other people who actually invented augmented reality. Now, we didn't call it augmented reality at the time. We didn't call it. I think we called it something like transparent virtual reality, because at the time you had virtual reality goggles, so the ones that covered your face completely and you couldn't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
And his concept was, well, why don't we make this transparent? So not only can you see the images in front of you from the device, you can also see the real world. So we took that idea and it won the award, which gave him lunch with the president, who was Jerry Yang at the time. And we took the entire slew of ideas that they came up with and did some additional brainstorming. And we patented maybe about 10 or 20 different ideas, starting with the augmented reality, virtual reality headset, as well as a number of other ideas that were follow-ons from that. So things like virtual billboards, things like virtual payments, things like virtual. So you'd be a thing where you would be walking down the street and you'd be wearing these glasses, and then you see somebody and you kind of realize you do know them, but you don't remember their name, and their name would pop up over their head, and you go, "Oh, Ursula, that's you. How are you doing today?" Or some little factoids, so you could say, "Hey, how's your kids?" or whatever, right? So this was in 2007. We patented all these ideas in 2007. And then years later, you get something like Google Glass. Years later, you get something like Apple Vision Pro. And, these ideas were, I'm not sure whether they're, because in the patent world, it's really interesting is that when you patent something and you see something very similar, it may not necessarily be sort of stolen, because it has to
It's
be
not an
precise,
infringement.
right? It's got to
Yeah,
be the
yeah,
precise
yeah,
solution.
yeah. Just
And
change a little bit, and it's a different patent, right?
exactly. But the concept itself, and we didn't call it augmented reality at the time, kind of like, the replicators in Star Trek. They didn't call them 3D printers, but they're basically 3D printers, right? They're just super high end, very forward looking 3D printers, but they call them replicators. So whatever we decide to come up with isn't necessarily what it was. So we came up with all sorts of different patents around that. And so Yahoo patented it, and everybody on the team had a great time. And we did that a couple years in a row to generate new ideas. And that's what we had to do in order to really create innovative, disruptive new ideas, is that we had to change the mindset of the individuals within the organizations to not think today, because everyone is always
Yes,
thinking today, right? And
yes,
every corporate,
yes.
everyone's looking short term, no matter what you do. And just trying to get people to look that much further out
Yeah,
is really difficult. But once you do
it
get
is.
them to think further out, you get some amazing stuff.
That's so right. We're doing the same thing. We create future scenarios, always thinking 10, 20, 30 years ahead. And there's a lot of resistance in the people at first. But then when we do it, it's so great. And it leads to internal processes as well. I think that's very important for innovation. You have to change your mindset as well, your own mindset. And where do the really to let the ideas flow, but it always works. They're always skeptical, so very skeptical.
Oh yeah,
But
the
then
land of
it's
some
so much
people
fun.
said, "Oh, you want me to go into the land of make believe?" And it's like, yes, we want you to go to the land of make believe.
Yes, exactly, join me. And let's have an interview from the future. It's such an easy tool. It's really easy. It's really simple. And when people are ready to do that, we always have great results. So I can see.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm still waiting for the replicator that makes my coffee latte. That would be awesome. Still doesn't exist, so maybe you can work on that. Till next time,
Well,
Chris.
there are food
September.
3D printers. There are food 3D printers out there, and
Yeah,
I don't know
but
if you've
for
seen
pizza, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the
It's
new
not me.
3D printed homes in Texas. So there's a town just northeast of Austin,
Hmm.
where
Hmm.
they're doing 3D printed homes that are completely extruded with extruded concrete. So
Mm.
they bring these giant 3D printers to the locations, and it extrudes the entire home with all of the walls and everything out of concrete. And
Yeah, that's
it,
great.
it
That's
looks
great.
kind of interesting because it's all
Yes.
ridged and stuff like that. But I'm not sure if I want to live in something like that. It would be great for a hot
Right.
climate because
Right.
it's
Right.
very the insulation is
Right.
fantastic.
That's right. I think in China they even build really high stores and also a dam. like for the water. So I think they're really, really, really big projects, and it's all 3D printed. It's really
Mm-hmm.
all 3D printed.
So yeah,
But
I need my latte too. Where's my replicator?
wouldn't that be awesome? Everything. I mean, they could make everything. We are still not there. But let's go back to the Austrian Google Glass story. You mentioned you patented that in 2007 in Austria. This already started in 2003.
Mm.
As early as 2003, Professor Alois Ferscha and his team of researchers at Johannes Kepler University in Upper Austria began toying with the idea of creating a computer built into eyeglasses. A year later, they partnered with Austrian eyewear manufacturer Silhouette to bring their vision to life. The challenge was significant, I guess you know that. It was not easy to integrate data functions without disrupting the glasses' design. But the result was nothing short of remarkable. The glasses were equipped with sensors that could detect temperature, light, sound, acceleration, geoposition, and even measure the user's stress level
Mm.
already.
Nice.
Yeah, the glasses also included wireless communication, a mini speaker, and a visual projection with a prism display similar to that used in Google Glass.
Wow, fantastic. I'd love to see what images of these things look like. That would be cool.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. How did I come about it? In 2005, while sifting through a list of projects funded by a federal Austrian R&D technology funding program I was working with, I stumbled upon this Spectacles project. It was called Spectacles. It's a bit mouthful of a name, maybe. Google Glass is a bit smoother. And as a PR professional, I recognized its potential as a compelling story, and we pushed it as interesting showcase to advertise the government's funding program. So it was in all the brochures, etc. In 2007, the prototype of the data glasses was completed after they got the funding program financed by the Austrian taxpayer. But then the project came to an abrupt end because Silhouette had other challenges to overcome and could not bring the product to market.
Mm.
Google, on the other hand, could.
Right.
In, two, in 2013, a member of Professor Ferscha's former Spectacles research team presented the technology from back then in Zurich, Switzerland. Only in his presentation, it was called Google Glass. And he was now the head of the Google Glass division at the world's largest search engine company. What do you think about this incredible story, Chris? And do you
Interesting,
know
right?
of similar things?
Did the technology, so he was a researcher in Austria and then he went to Google and he brought the
Yes,
technology with him?
yes.
Well, I mean, I don't know how it works with governments, but I mean, is that all public domain when you create these ideas and put them out there and they use public funds, and then they could be just lifted by private companies and go, okay, here we go. There's no
That's
recourse
a
back to Austria to
yeah.
say, hey, we stole your tech. We didn't steal. I guess we didn't steal your tech because it's really public domain if the government
Hmm.
creates it. But it would be nice to get some kind of sort of compensation for the amount of work that was put into it in the first place.
That's right. And as I mentioned, it's actually these funding schemes are financed by the Austrian taxpayer. So that's really interesting how it goes. But that's a very valid point. You mentioned maybe it's open innovation, and that's very often in the contracts. I don't know the details of the funding contract in this case, but I also think it's not a law case. It's not. It was not illegal for them to take the technology because, as far as I know, it was not patented.
Right. Well, yeah, that's correct. But Google, they kind of have a history of doing
Tell
things
us
like
about
this.
that.
So I
Did I steal from you
like I
too?
said, I spent time at Yahoo, right? And one of the things Yahoo did early on in order to monetize themselves is they bought a little company called Overture, which is came out of Idea Labs, which is based in Southern California. And Overture came up with the idea of pay-per-click advertising. So the concept of pay-per-click advertising, the thing that Google makes billions of dollars, 90% of their revenues are from pay-per-click advertising. That idea was patented by Overture back in whenever that was, mid 90s or late 2000s or whatever. And Yahoo bought Overture. So Yahoo owned the patent for pay-per-click advertising. And Google, sort of sitting there as a search engine, they weren't making any money. They had no business model. There was no monetization whatsoever. So somebody there probably said, "Oh, that looks interesting. Let's just do that." they didn't contact Yahoo. They didn't license anything from Yahoo. They just went ahead and implemented pay-per-click ads. And a couple years later, Yahoo's like, "Wait a minute, you never even talked to us about it. We own the patent on this thing. That's not right." So eventually they got into some legal wranglings, and Google paid them a one-time fee for the use of pay-per-click. And I'm like, well, that was a kind of a dumb idea, because you could have had revenues ongoing forever. Because if you look at the billions of dollars that Google has made from pay-per-click advertising, it's insane. And so Yahoo made it kind of a dumb move legally, but at the same time, how was this initiated? Google basically, they stole the technology. The technology was there pay-per-click ads were out there, but the technology was owned. The concept was owned by a different company, and they did it anyway.
Yes, and Yahoo never used pay-per-click advertising.
Oh yeah. They absolutely used it. They absolutely used it. I'm just saying that Google basically had no conception of how to monetize. And had they not used pay-per-click ads to monetize, they wouldn't be where they are today. So they lifted the technology, they stole a technology and implemented it, and then were able to, they made enough money so they could actually pay Yahoo off to use the technology. And it's not the first case of something like this happening. I mean, you're familiar with the cable industry, right? Like cable TV, cable television.
Yes.
The very first, I remember working for a cable TV company a long, long time ago, and as their part of their orientation, here's the startup story. Here's how it started. Some guy was in some remote location, and he wanted to get signals from a remote TV station. So he put up an antenna, and he grabbed the signals, and he was watching TV from this antenna. And he would invite his friends over to watch TV as well. And his friends were like, "Wow, this is great. You can get this TV show?" He goes, "Yeah, I put this antenna up. Well, can you like do that for me too?" And he thought, maybe if I run a cable from my antenna to my neighbor, then he can get the signal too. And then next neighbor, before you know it, the cable company industry is born. They put up a bunch of big antennas, they steal signal, and then they charge customers to distribute that signal out to their local area. And they never paid, at that point, they didn't pay a cent to the companies that were originally creating the content. They just redistributed it for money. So they were making a ton of money off content that they were just stealing and redistributing. But the thing is that by the time somebody called them on it saying, "Hey, you shouldn't do that," they had so much money in the bank that they just said, "Okay, we can pay you now."
You can.
And they went from theft to a legitimate business, just like that. So it's same with Google. It's like
great?
They went from theft to a legitimate business, just like that. So you almost think to yourself, wait a minute, should I really be cutting myself off of doing something innovative and disruptive if it's borderline illegal or even illegal? Because maybe eventually it could be legalized.
That's really a very good point. I think maybe the whole innovation game is sometimes too fast and too furious.
Yeah.
You cannot do that. Like, sustainable innovation is a long-term game. And I think long-term games and long-term business partnerships are always built on trust. And you definitely don't build trust like that. And also without the connection to fundamental values of humanity, technological developments can cause enormous, irreparable damage. So I always struggle with that. I think overly short term thinking and the focus on quick wins, as in this case, may seem promising in the short term, and it obviously does, as you describe it, but can lead to a disaster in the long run. What do I mean by that? If innovation is created by stealing technologies from others, we lose the capacity to solve problems in new and creative ways. we really use it. The whole thing you describe with thinking 10 years ahead and having these competitions, and you came up with really innovative ideas. If you just go ahead and steal something from someone else, I think that's really problematic, and we certainly can't afford that at this point in time. What is your opinion on that, Chris?
Well, I think in some cases, it really is more of a mindset, a
Hmm.
limiting mindset, right? And this is what I try to tell people. It's kind of like when you're innovating and you're trying to come up with new, completely brand new, disruptive new things, you're definitely going to come up with some things that are on the edge, right? Or even over the edge. They're going to be things that make you really uncomfortable. But the thing is that when you start getting into that space where you're feeling uncomfortable, or you're over the edge, or maybe you're thinking about things that are borderline illegal or whatever, that might be where things are going. That might be where all the interesting things are happening. It's like you're not playing it safe anymore. It's kind of like I've been in sessions where managers come in and the directors come in, and the company's in trouble, and everybody sits down and goes, okay, we're in trouble. We need to figure this out. Everything's on the table. But when they say that, they don't really mean everything's on the table, because everything's on the table could be things like we got to slash half our workforce, or we have to double the price of our product. We have to do things that are out of bounds of this box that we're in. So sometimes you do have to sort of push the edge of the box out, or get outside the box. And I'm not saying go ahead and do something illegal. I'm saying at least think about what the ramifications are if you did that. What's possible outside this box. And that's one of the reasons why I really like Elon Musk and his concept of maximally curious AI, because all of our AI nowadays is really neutered. So it's told you can think in this box, but you can't think out of this box. Even simple things like questioning something let's say you want to question climate change, and there's tons of information on climate change, and some people believe it's completely settled and other people believe that it's not. But the thing is that the thing about science is that science is never settled, right? We could always find something new and find something else
Very
that's new.
important point.
And I'm
Yes.
not saying, I'm saying think about all of the possibilities. So don't
Yeah.
automatically box yourself in and say, this is true. This is absolutely true, and there's no way this will change. The thing about science is that it changes all the time. So you
Yes.
have to be open to doing things that are outside of the box, and maybe not necessarily implementing them, but at least think about them and look at. And even if you're not thinking about them, I'm sure your competitors are thinking of it. Your less scrupulous competitors might be thinking about it, right? So maybe you'll say to yourself, well, Yahoo's got this great technology with pay-per-click. I'm not going to steal that because that's theirs. But somebody at Google said, you know what? Let's put it in and see what happens, right? So I guess what I'm
Yes,
trying
but
to say is,
yeah.
thinking outside the box sometimes makes people uncomfortable. But we gotta think, we gotta go there and think about it. We don't necessarily need to do something about it.
Yes, and maybe we shouldn't do harm to other people
Right.
on the way. Yeah, I
Well,
think
yeah.
this
I
this
mean,
should be a basic
but
principle.
thinking, it's the whole difference of thinking about how you could possibly do something like that. Like I said, the guy who was putting up the cable TV towers, he probably wasn't thinking, I'm going to screw the cable company, or I'm going to screw the TV stations. He was thinking, oh, I want to solve this problem for my neighbors and myself and make a few bucks at the same time. I don't think they were looking at it from I definitely want. They were probably looking at it from oh, that's an interesting idea. Maybe I can implement it, and maybe it's not 100% copacetic for every party. But if you can get to that point at some point, then at least thinking about it will lead you in that direction.
Yes, I think that's a good point. Allow yourself to think about it, but don't do illegal things and don't harm other people.
Yeah, exactly. You can always pull back. See, that's one of the things that we
Yes.
do. This is what human beings do. What we do is we go all the way out to the edge, and then
Hmm.
we go, "Oh my God, it's really scary here. Let's step back a little bit." And
Yes.
it happens in so many spaces. I mean, I'll give you another example. Electronic music, right? So when electronic music first started, so we had regular instruments, and then somebody figured out how to get a computer to make sounds. beep, boop, 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 beep, boop, 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 beep, boop, boop, right? And you had all of this electronic music that was terrible. It was awful. Nobody could,
It is.
like, they hated it. People hated it, right? And then
Mm.
somebody said, well, what if we use a computer to take a sound from an actual instrument and then
And like it.
have the computer replay that actual instrument sound, such as a sample? So sampling was invented. So they use computers instead of creating new sounds. They use computers to sample. And then as soon as they started sampling real life things, all of a sudden it blew up. It's like, wow, computers in music, it's fantastic. You can't imagine music without computers now. So it's kind of like, that's what we do. We go to the edge, a new technology shows up, we go to the far edge using it by itself, and we go, oh my God, that's awful. And then we step back and say, well, how could we, like, where's the middle ground between where this is, where we are now, and where's the middle ground which really, really works? And I think we're in the same kind of situation with AI. There's people who are way out there doing AI stuff that's like, oh my God, this is awful. There's people here who are doing what is today. So we need that blend. We need that combination of the far out stuff and today. And we find that happy medium in between, which is good for everybody.
Yes. Now let me come back to our Google Glass story. So
Okay.
we are of the opinion that it was invented in Austria. You kind of are of the opinion you also invented it at Yahoo. Now we could say that all this doesn't matter so much because in retrospect, Google Glass turned out to be a flop, is banned as spy technology in some countries, and is very controversial in general.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, for me, as a European, it is thought-provoking that in Europe we often seem to create great innovative foundations and then virtually give them away to the world without receiving the corresponding monetary appreciation for them. I would call that from Austria with love. So, Chris, you as the patent guy, can you tell us how can we do better in this regard?
Well, like you said, the patenting it would be very, very useful. But then you also have to be willing to litigate, because that's one of the things that Yahoo did, and one of the things many, many companies do, is that they patent, but they don't litigate. They'll go, I want to protect this because I might want to do it sometime in the future. But then if somebody else does it, you have to be willing to say, hang on a second, you're doing this. You need to, give me a slice of the pie. So that's one of the things Yahoo did, is they contacted Google and said, listen, you guys are using our pay-per-click technology. You need to pay us for that. And you have to be willing to litigate. And a lot of companies who are patenting, they're not doing it in an offensive way. They're just doing it in a defensive way. But that's what you need to do. You need to have a part of the organization has to be willing to patent, protect the ideas. And then when the ideas are being stolen, you have to be willing to litigate and license, right? And that's what happens. Actually, a lot of universities in the United States are just like that. They have areas where they're doing supremely forward-thinking, disruptive innovation. And what do you think happens? They patent it. They have patents coming. They generate all these patents at the university. And then when they see somebody out there, something using similar, then they will not, maybe they won't litigate, but they will contact and they'll say, well, we patented this. You can license the technology from us. And if you provide reasonable terms on the licensing, then people will use it. Or maybe you can protect it a bit by saying, you know what, if you're an Austrian-based startup, these patents are free for you to use, or they're inexpensive. They're $25 a month or something like that. Something, just a nominal fee, so that you can get the companies you'd like to be able to use this. But if some company in the States comes in and say Google decides to use the technology, then you have to be willing to go ahead and litigate. If they're stealing the technology, or if they want to license it, then you have to give them licenses that are appropriate to their size. So there needs to be a business unit in there that goes, we're gonna patent this stuff, we're gonna protect this stuff, and when we own it, then we can treat it just like any other property. Right? Intellectual property is like any other property. If somebody decides to use it without paying me, then I should do something about it. And if you want to use it, then give me something. And like I said, you can have a different scale. You can say Austrian startups, free, right? European startups, $25 a month. American startups, $1,000 a month, or whatever.
Chinese, 2,000.
Yeah, exactly. What are you trying to
Nothing
use this
against our
for?
Chinese
Are you using it for for surveillance?
Nothing
20,000.
against our Chinese colleagues, I would like to say. But there's a history with stealing some patents, learning from the master, I know. So yeah, that's a very good idea. That's really a very good idea. Yet in Europe, we often look at the world somewhat perplexed when the US and China seem to be overtaking us innovatively in areas such as artificial intelligence. We talked a lot about that today at breakneck speed. Kai-Fu Lee, AI expert and ex-head of Google China, said in early 2019 that Europe is not even in the running for third place in the global AI
Oh,
competition.
that hurts. That
That
hurts.
hurts. And our researchers reacted. European researchers counted. We may lack the resources, but we are eager to perform miracles.
Hmm.
And that's what they do, unfortunately, often in total silence and unrecognized by the
Mm,
world.
terrible.
Chris, do you have any final comments for our audience on that?
You need to be more outspoken, I guess you could say. I mean, the Americans are outspoken, the Chinese are outspoken, all these other
Mm,
countries, all these other groups are outspoken. And you need to sort of blow your own horn, be a little more out there about the ideas. And you can do that once you've protected them. And that's the thing is like if you're completely open, if you're completely open to innovation and everything that you create is just out there, it's almost an invitation for people to go, I'm just going to take that and
mm,
go. I'm just going to take that
mm,
and run. So there needs to be some protection, but there also need, because once you've added the protection, then you can be as vocal about it as possible. I remember in all these organizations where I was patenting things, there was always the sort of rush patent filing right before an
mm,
announcement. Just before we tell people we're doing this super cool thing, we have to
mhm,
make sure that it's protected. So if somebody decides to take this super cool thing and do it instead of us, then at least we've protected it. So it
yeah.
kind of gives you the freedom to be really outspoken about all of your great innovation without having to worry that, oh, somebody else is going to take it. Now, on the other hand, if you're just doing it for the benefit of the human race, why not? Right? Does it matter if Google takes the idea and runs with it? At least it's implemented, because there's a lot of innovators who are
Mm,
like that. They're like, I don't care if I get paid with this
mm,
for this
mm. I
great
just
idea.
want to see it manifested in
And
the
not
world.
only that, I want to
Mm,
see it manifested in a way that improves humanity. So I've invented this not for the money. I've invented this to uplift humanity. And I
mm,
don't care if I get a penny out of it. But if it's out there
mm,
and it's uplifting humanity, then my purpose is solved. So you have to think about it from an organizational standpoint. What is the organizational trying to do? Are they trying to make money, or are they also or are they trying to build things that will uplift humanity, and they don't care who implements it? So
mm.
that's what I would say. But like I said, that layer of protection allows you to be more free with your ideas, because that you don't have to worry that much about them being stolen, because there's that little layer of protection that helps you to be a little more free about what you're communicating.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. And of course, I appreciate each and every one of you, our dear audience. Thank you for listening to or watching Code Red Technology Madness and the Future of Humanity. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. You're more a reader than a listener, then feel free to subscribe to the written Code Red columns on Code Red by redswan.substack.com. In any case, let me thank you for taking the time and your bravery to change the world by starting with yourself. Wherever you are, I wish you a good day or a good night, and in any case, a good life. See you next time.